Over the past 6 months, I have been developing a nonogram puzzle game. If you're unfamiliar with nonograms, think about stuff like Picross or I can't think of any other one right now, but I feel like there's a lot. And I decided to make one of these games because I've been trying to get more into game dev, and I played some of those games, and I thought to myself, how hard could it be? Well, 6 months later, and a little bit of crying, I have finished 50 puzzles, and the game is out. It's on itch.io. It's free, although if you want to leave a donation, all those tears will be worth it. But yeah, I spent a lot of time on this game, and it was a good learning experience getting into game dev, especially starting with something that's 2D. Anyway, I thought I'd share a couple of fun facts about the game after finishing it. One, I did all the sounds myself. A lot of the rain sounds were compiled by, it would rain outside my apartment, and I would just go run outside. I would go in my car and film like the rain hitting the rooftop, and you hear some of that sound in the main menu. Just random nonsense with my phone, and that was enough, if you can believe it. I'm sure people who are like crazy good with recognizing audio quality may hear that it's terrible, but no, it was all recorded with an iPhone or this microphone. For the sound of placing the squares in the puzzles, I originally wanted the sound of like a chess piece hitting a board. If you can imagine the satisfying sound of like a wooden chess piece just going plink onto the... That's not what it sounds like at all, but if you can imagine for one moment, if you could use your brain and just hear that satisfying sound. But when you put that sound into a game where people are placing 15 squares at a time or more, it starts to become very grating. So I took that same sound and just beat it down to, putting a bunch of effects all over it. Basically to make it sound like water dropping into a pool of water, kind of. Put a lot of reverb, and the low pass filter is just the best. Remove all that high frequency noise, leave all the low frequency noise, add some reverb, and you've got yourself a really delightful sound. One of the other things about game dev that everyone warns you about is like feature creep. And if you don't know what that is, feature creep is when you start with a game idea and then you start going, it would be so cool to add all these other features onto it. And at the time you think, it's going to be easy. I could do that, no problem. That'll take a month tops. Does not take a month tops. One of my original ideas for this game was to have 10 backgrounds. I was going to do 100 levels, and it would have 10 different not art styles, but like a different pixel art drawing in the background, different sounds for different locations that you'd be in. I kind of wanted to do Tetris Effect, but for nonogram games. I've done pixel art in the past, and I've done like big pixel art backgrounds, but A, they weren't very good. And B, I guess I didn't account for the amount of time it would actually take to make those backgrounds, because I started up on the first one, which was supposed to be kind of like a cyberpunky cityscape with cars and glowing neon signs. And as I was drawing it, I very quickly realized that it was going to take me a long time just to do one. Did I mention this game was supposed to take like a month? In my head, I was like, I could probably do a month or 2 months, and I could do this. Granted, there was a lot of time where I wasn't working on the game and I was doing other stuff. But yeah, 2 months. And then realizing that over the span of a weekend, I still could not create like even a good-looking foreground for one location. And it was really bumming me out, so I just decided, you know what? My goal here was to work on like design and programming. And I do care about art, and I care about getting better at making art, but the project was not supposed to take this long. And so I had to be very realistic about how many environments there were, how much art I was doing, how many features I was putting on myself. So I just went to some website and they had pixel art city backgrounds, and this one was free and it looked good. And so I made some minor edits to it. Well, minor. I made some glowing lights. All the windows have this kind of like, I don't know what they call it, but it's an effect in GameMaker where you can add like a noise map that scrolls, and you can have it be like a specific color. So I did that, but for the windows, and I think it turned out pretty good. Also, the clouds have a thing on them, like a distortion animation. And that looks pretty good, I guess. Anyway, yeah, so there's a lot to take from working on this game, including not being an idiot about art and being honest with yourself about making any kind of thing that's like the Tetris effect, because that was made by professional people who are good at their job. And this was made by me. No, I'm being self-deprecating, but I actually am. I'm happy with how it turned out. I think this was. I feel like when a lot of people say, like, start small on your first project, what they have in mind is, like, Pong small, which is probably where I should have started, and not something with a full menu and a bunch of levels and an options thing and whatever, and tutorial. I'm trying to think of other stuff that, like, I'll take with me on future projects, because I do want to make more games. I want to get into 3D stuff as well. I think one of the biggest things is like modularity is the proper way of making games, in my opinion. I mean, you have to balance, like, okay, how do I explain this? You have to balance quick implementation, like for the sake of experimentation, with knowing that like more modular stuff is going to be better in the long run. So for instance, I spent a lot of time at the start of development doing this whole thing of like figuring out how to save a puzzle. So all the puzzles are generated through code instead of doing it like making a room and then placing all of the squares that are correct and placing all of the spaces where squares aren't supposed to be. Instead, what I did was have a room where I can draw puzzles, and then I can save those puzzles as number values, and then I can load those number values into the game very quickly. And it'll just draw the grid, draw all the squares, and it's simple. Now, I'm sure that there are some more optimized ways of doing it that maybe I could have spent a little more time on, but ultimately I think the system was good in the long run, because when I actually completed everything, when I completed all the menus and the tutorial and all the systems for like graying out numbers and checking the correct puzzle layout, after that, making puzzles was extremely simple. You just load up this one big puzzle that's a 15 by 15 grid, and then you can draw whatever you want and just hit Control S and it'll print out a thing for you. And it was very simple to make puzzles after that. Anyway, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Like I said before, I would like to do more stuff. I would like to do more game development. Different types of games. Yeah. I don't want to say anything about how soon the next thing is going to be happening, because every time I post a video on this channel saying I'm going to make more videos, I never do. And also, like I said, I thought this game would take me 1 to 2 months, and it took me 6. So I'm not going to make promises, but I have some really fun stuff that I'm looking forward to doing. And for whoever is still subscribed here, or maybe if you're checking out the video after checking out the game, welcome, and we'll see what happens. See what happens in the future. No promises. And hey, look, this is the first game I ever finished, so if you have any feedback, I'd love to hear it. You can share it in the comments. You can share it over on the itch.io page. I would love to know what you think. And hey, if you have any questions, let me know. I'd be happy to answer probably most of them or all of them, depending on what they are, I guess. That's it. It's Nono City. I'm I'm taking down all these lights. There's like 3 lights pointed at me. And I'm tired, and I'm going to go to sleep. And now that this game is released, I can sleep peacefully and work on something else for the next 6 months. I'm standing up now. I'm turning the lights off now. There we go. Oh, we got the nice silhouette, too. Look at that. Look at the shining video. It's awesome. Hi.